Hey, this is Jason from Centershift, and you're listening to Vulgar Display Podcast.
Welcome to the Vulgar Display Podcast. Got Dale, Mike, Twan, Anthony.
Yeah.
How's it going, guys?
What's up, guys?
Great.
Hey, man. You have a good week?
Yeah.
Great week.
Happy Saturday,
Awesome.
everybody.
Good week.
Keeping it metal.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just living it.
Speaking of metal, speaking of rock,
Yes.
we have Jason Radford from the band Centershift. Jason, how's it going?
Hey, guys. What's up? How are you?
Things are great. How about yourself, sir?
Oh, not bad, man. Celebrating, happy Father's Day to you guys and everybody. Celebrating Father's Day with some, very close family members and friends of the family, out here in California.
Awesome.
Yeah, good deal.
We won't take up too much of your time, but I mentioned that you've kind of been an OG in the game for a little bit. You were a part of some bands back in the day. Do you want to talk a little bit about that first?
Yeah, sure.
So, singer of One Side Zero, had a lot of tours, did a lot of touring, was pretty popular back in the day. And when you think about those times, is there anything that sticks out, a certain feeling that you have with that?
Yeah, man. It was like the best, and craziest time and hardest time of our lives. It was a time of music taking a big change, with 9/11. Our first record came out right around that time. Our first single was going to be Instead Laugh. And it went to New World Order because, Instead Laugh starts with the lyric, it's suicide, which is not talking about suicide. But, radio got real heavy on anything that had that connotation or anything that was they deemed negative, right? So Let the Bodies Hit the Floor was taken off the radio.
Yeah.
A lot of our friends, their singles didn't even come out. So it was hard for us, but luckily, we persevered. But the most amazing thing about it was really just the touring and meeting, people that were into the band. And, back then the Napsters and the downloads really kind of helped us create or gain a fan base and get out on the road. And, for us, touring was the whole thing. We loved it. We never took a day off. If we had a day off on a big tour, whether it be with 311 or Incubus or Soulfly, Static, we always did off dates or tried to find a show or find a rehearsal spot, And a lot of times we got to just hang out with people that came to the show the night before or, as we're coming through a town, just make new friends. And that was really a direction for us to continue and then start, Centershift was, just a lot of the people that have been loyal and an amazing family, we call them, and it really is a family when you get out there because they become your family. You know what I mean? Everyone meet out there and it's just cool. It's I always call it, for people coming up in the game or just getting started, it's going to be the best, hardest time of your life. And
Right.
it really,
Right. Like it's amazing, but there's hard work involved.
that's when the game starts, or the work starts. It's like, in a way, you persevere and try all in your young career of becoming professional or doing this, and then once you sign that record deal, that's when it really begins.
Sure.
Do people ask you for advice? You have several years of touring experience and recording albums, and
Oh, sure. And, for me, this whole thing, it's a gift. If you get the gift and the opportunity to do this for a living, my theory is you give it back, you know what I mean? And so however that is. So for me, that's always been my motto. And so I have a management company that develops young artists and people coming up that either maybe not get even a look or a shot, but, I deserve everybody. I think everyone deserves the shot, you know what I mean? Or at least to try this, you know what I mean? To know if you really want to do this for your life. So I try to do that as much as possible. I'm opening a rehearsal studio out here in California for up and coming bands and, basically anybody to rehearse. But I love the mentoring or, just the development of young artists that are just phenomenal, you know what I mean? That are coming out just way more advanced than we were at their age. But it's just incredible to see that. So if I can help that and nurture that in any way and give advice or, of the good and the bad and the ugly of all this, then that's what I'm here for,
Yeah. I saw that on your Instagram page that you were opening up that rehearsal studio. That looked pretty cool.
I hope it is. I mean, it's really cool, so we'll see. But thanks for looking at it.
Yeah. How many rooms is it?
For this space right now, it's going to be about 6 rooms.
Cool.
And then we hope to expand because I get first dibs on the units next to me and stuff like that. So 6 rooms to start, and then we hope to grow from there.
That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah, and if you want to see that, check out your Instagram. What is your Instagram, Jason, if you want to give it to us real quick?
Mine is JASAN, the letter R, the number 4, the letter D. And then for Centershift, we're the word Centershift _OG.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. And you guys Centershift recently just released an album, A Different Shade. You've released a couple different videos, and it seems like there's almost like a story that's being told. Is this album... Does it follow sort of a storyline, or is it a conceptual album, or how are the videos connected to the album?
Yeah, kind of nail on the head. I wouldn't say conceptual because that sometimes can be misleading or a bad word. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For us, it's, the album is really honest. We wrote everything during COVID and then on. And so what we're doing is, what the release we did, the videos were for singles of a piece of the full-length album. So the release we did, A Different Shade, is like a different shade ... And it's the first piece of a 3-part story being told for the full length. It'll be out before the end of this year. So expect another single coming out real soon. I think it's July 29th. The song is called From Where We Are. And that was collectively written by all of us together with a new, with Ryan joining the band, who was in Shovel, and then our new drummer, Stefan, who was in a band with me way back in the day called Blueprint in the early 90s. Mm-hmm. And so this is like, the Different Shade is the first piece of these 3 parts, and the second EP is going to be called Of. And so the third in the full-length release is the answer of A Different Shade of What? And so that's the question. So it's kind of, it's something that's going to have, all the pieces from the beginning, and you get to see the growth of the band for us also. I think the songs grew as we recorded all of them. In fact, we just came back from Cleveland this last time, recording another 6 for the record, because for the full length, we want to give, everything that's been a single and on the releases, but also want to give some more songs to everybody. So you feel like you're getting more for being supportive, and it's really yours. And you get to kind of go on the journey and the story of us becoming a band and what the song and what the record's about.
Can we talk about the first one that you guys released real quick? The song number 9. There's a beach vibe to it, but it seems like the beach is more washing away some of maybe the past, and you guys are also wearing masks, and there's a mask theme to it as well.
Yeah, so you kind of nailed it. Water washes things away, you know what I mean? It cleans the surface. And for us, I think, and a lot for me, transitions in my life and decisions and choices that I wanted to share, you know what I mean? And so Show Me the Path was kind of like, I'd like everybody to make their own interpretations of what they are. But also it's, for me, it was maybe me just opening my eyes, you know what I mean? Becoming clear-headed and level-headed. And with the masks, it was in a sense of pulling the masks off. You know what I mean? It's like now you're taking off the armor in a sense, and being okay with being vulnerable and being honest. You know what I mean? Without somewhat of the clutch, whether it be drugs or alcohol or things like that.
That's great, Jason. We saw the video of you guys playing the number 9 at the Whiskey, and what was the return of playing live like for you guys?
It was real nerve-wracking. We had to shake the cobwebs off, and, we'd just written these songs. A lot of times you have the luxury of something coming out and more people knowing it before you go and play them live. And that was really the first time we had played them live, and we opened up for Black Map, and which I love that band. We took Dredge, one side took Dredge out, and we would swap tours back and forth through all of our career. So when Black Map started, it was like second nature, you know what I mean? So when they asked us to open up for them, be main support. We were like, yeah. And then, reality kicked in like, holy shit, we got to play this live.
Oh, wait, we really got to do this. We already said yes.
Yeah. Like this thing just, we're not listening to it anymore and recording it. You're like, oh, what did we play? You know what I mean? Because you get really creative in the studio, and all of a sudden, that comes out, and then like shaking off the cobwebs, literally walking up on stage and go, and so it was interesting to say the least. I think that we band together, the three of us, because that was the inception of the band, was just the three of us. We were just a three-piece, and so for us to pull that out and know that, okay, we can do this, it was like, it was an awakening, but it was also like, okay, this is real. Let's do it.
I was trying to explain to my 17-year-old daughter, you mentioned 9/11, and, when you go back and listen to a lot of music from that time period, there's a mood that you just can't really, you can't really shake. You just hear it in the music.
It's in the air, yeah.
Yeah. When you go back and listen to your music from those days around 9/11, do you still hear that kind of, do you feel like you're in that time period again?
Yeah, it definitely 100%, because for us, we lived through all of that. So when 9/11 happened, we just started a tour with 311. Really odd. And we were in Vegas. We woke up in Vegas. We just finished another tour, a little run, and might have been with a demo or something. And the bus, we drove to Vegas through the night, and then we woke up in Vegas, and we just got handed our laminates the night before from our tour manager. And on the 311 tour laminate was 2 buildings on fire. And then, and that morning we woke up to, my phone rang. It was someone from the East Coast saying, dude, are you guys on tour? Turn on your TV. So I ran in, turned all the TVs on in the bus, and we're watching, the first tower just got hit. So from that moment, Vegas was locked down. Rob, the drummer of One Side Zero, was coming in on a train and couldn't get in because they locked everything down. And from that moment, everything changed. You know what I mean? So the laminate, all of a sudden we got handed new laminates with a picture of the Statue of Liberty and American flag. Those laminates were taken away. I'm sure they're out there. They're kind of like a negative, but it's just really weird that they made this before any of this happened. Pretty crazy. So from that, we watched the different pieces of the country, how the feeling was, right? The West Coast was kind of disconnected unless you knew people there. You got to the Midwest, and it was very pro-America, chanting USA before every show. It was very that way. Our guitar player in one side is Armenian, so a couple of times, we had to, security had to walk around or things like that. There was a lot of change that we saw. And then we got to the East Coast, and it was very sullen. Mm-hmm. I got to see Ground Zero. I hate to say got to see it because it was really, really freaking heavy. The wall where all the missing people, they were posting pictures up, and I saw that. And that night I did a benefit. I think a modeling agency was throwing a benefit for that. And I went to that, met a lot of people, and then the band played Philadelphia the next night. And we started the show. We were on tour. I think it was Seven Dust. And we, I had the crowd give a moment of silence, and it's like you could hear nothing. It was so quiet in there. It was crazy. And then we went back right across the country from the East Coast back. And so it was a full West Coast or countrywide tour. And you could see where now things were starting to change, where now people were angry. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so the point is that we really got to see all the emotions of what this did to the United States and did to people around the world and in general, and a lot of people were affected. So yeah, listening back, if a song comes on Pandora or, someone brings up a song, there's 100% a flood of memories of what we went through and what the world did, you know what I mean? And being a part of that out there, you know what I mean? And it was pretty incredible, to say the least.
You got a really interesting perspective of how things played out in the moments afterwards.
Probably a perspective that not a lot of people was able to experience, of that full kind of seeing America through the trials and tribulations of that time.
And then rewinding it again and going back,
And not to compare the two, but we're sort of kind of in, I think, coming out of that same type of situation where the world has changed, right? And it's a tragedy, but it's a different type of tragedy, and to me, especially, thinking about 9/11, art and music and film and all that stuff that came after that was so important because it kind of gave that sense of normalcy.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Do you have that sense with what you guys are doing now?
Yes. I mean, we all know the world's in a very interesting state. And without being political, you know, a lot of times, you know, it's like, how do you find or write? You know, I think that I was influenced more on life in general, personally, and what we were doing and the COVID, you know what I mean? And not focusing so much on that, but the light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak, you know, and without overly thinking it, you know, just kind of writing what's being, you know, what you feel honestly and that kind of thing. And, you know, I think the best thing, you're going to be influenced by what happens in the life, right? And as artists and as writers, you know, I think that we, you know, in a lot of ways, we're the voice that a lot of people don't have or know how to use. And I think that's why we relate to songs as humans. You know what I mean? We relate to art and we relate to music because, oh my God, that's what I feel, you know, and they're saying what I want to say. I just don't know how to say it and that kind of thing. And, you know, if you can come out of something like what we've been going through and then, you know, and know that everything's going to be cool, you know, everything's going to be okay. And that there's but you're allowed to be angry and you're allowed to feel this way. And yeah, my head's fucked up a little bit, but there's a way to fix it. You know what I mean?
Sure. Absolutely. That's a great way to put it.
Thank you.
Can we get to the second video that you guys released, My Own World? You know, the video, I think, starts with some kind of conflict. There's something going on. And then most of the video is this very beautiful woman who's doing this acrobatic, and I don't even know what it's called, but
like ribbon dancing.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Yeah. She's hanging from ribbons. And
yeah. And then it sort of ends. So most of the video is that, and it's very beautiful and goes with music perfectly. I think you guys did an awesome job with that. But towards the end, it sort of kind of sets the stage for what comes next.
Right. You guys did your research. I love it. Thank you. Yeah, there's you know, it's like I said, the songs are about life and I guess some of the things that I had gone through. So that was a visual portrayal of, you know, an argument and how sometimes you just need to escape, right? So that's her escape was the aerial dancing. They're called an aerialist. And
thank you for that.
Now we know. Yeah.
Yeah, no worries. It took me forever to figure it out too. I was like, what? And I knew what we wanted, you know what I mean? And the director and I got, you know, in on this and we figured oh my God, this would be amazing. And she, Kaylee, that's her name, Kaylee, she choreographed the whole thing. So the piece
cool.
in
Nice.
longevity in reality is freaking amazing. And so, you know, obviously the video, you shoot it in entirety and then you cut it up and then you shoot little pieces and pickup shots and stuff. So it's the way that the director edited it and got it all to feel seamless was just phenomenal. So you got the point of it. But that was her escape of this argument and you know, I live in my own world, you know, where she goes away. And then at the end, the phone call that she gets is like almost the apology that in a sense leads into what And So is about.
That is so weird because we have it pulled up on our big screen right here.
Yeah.
And right when you said phone call, she was reaching for the phone.
Yeah. Like timing was insane.
So strange.
Yeah. It's like you were watching it.
That's rad.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's extremely beautiful, the dancing that she does, and it's so fascinating. It must be so hard to do.
I mean, I think she could kick in a dude's butt. I mean, and the strength.
Oh my gosh.
Gotta be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like to do that over and over, you know, how many times you have to shoot something to get it right and her timing right. And so she was really critical, you know, she was like, my timing's off, let's do it again, you know, telling the director. And he's like, okay, you know, because we don't know how and what to do, you know what I mean? So she's got to tell us. And, you know, the drop, you know, that was a 20-foot drop where the camera's below her and her hair flickers and he comes back, you know, it's in slow motion, but she drops from 20 feet.
Jesus.
Down into the camera like that. And so she wanted it perfect and you know, she nailed it. She's just amazing.
So Jason, with this song, the first thing that sticks out for me, like visually, just so I'm scrolling through and looking at the tracks and stuff, it says featuring One Side Zero.
Yeah, so it's kind of a typo and we tried to get it fixed. It's a bummer because obviously I'm from One Side Zero, and then Mike, you know, at the time was our first drummer in Centershift, but he was also the last drummer in One Side Zero. So he came over as we started Centershift. So the fact that One Side was on Maverick Warner and these the Centershift releases are through Warner, I think that they not pulled a fast one, but I think it's a typo. You know, it was supposed to, they wanted always to do something from One Side Zero.
Right.
And
Gotcha.
that I Side Zero, it's Jason from One Side Zero. And they fought for it. And we were kind of like, no, let's not really go that route. You know, let's let Centershift be its own thing, or, you know, people will figure it out. And then I finally went, okay, you know, if you guys want to do something, but don't word it as this, you know, word it, you know, completely different. And they went exactly with featuring. And then we tried to change it. Now it was out. And then once it's in the system, it was just too much for them to try to pull it and then change the wording or the verbiage. And so that's where it's at. And yes, there's been a lot of confusion, which was in a way kind of cool. Is like, well, who from One Side's in there? You know what I mean? Who did someone play the part, you know, and that kind of thing. And it you know, if I could just apologize now that it is basically kind of a typo, you know, and it wasn't supposed to read that way.
Sure. Yep. I'm clearly one of the ones that were confused by that.
Yeah, we accept your apology.
Same.
Jason, we've been jamming, waiting for summer, and it's so beautiful. The vocals, and it's melodic. The hooks, it's so catchy. Who's helping with the backup vocals on that one?
I do a lot of them. Ted, he's not much of a singer, he always says, but he does some stuff. We try to have the band, you know, to keep whatever you're going to hear live be on the record. And then, you know, Jim Wirt, he's an amazing producer, and he gets creative, and then he'll jump in there and do this crazy harmony. And he's like, what do you think? I'm like, cool, keep it. You know what I mean? Instead of me going, he'll do it as a guide of something nuts that he thought of. And I'm like, dude, it sounds great. Just keep it. So sometimes, you know, the producer will jump in on songs and do some stuff if they feel it, you know. And we went back to Jim Wirt to do Centershift because Jim did the One Side Zeros demos that got us the deal. So we stuck with him to do the One Side record as this room getting smaller. And he's been my producer, you know. We did the second record with Ulrich Wild, who's amazing as well. And but for me, I felt like, you know, the world was coming all back around full circle. There were so many weird things of like, no way, you know what I mean, of this like just full circleness, you know. And I felt Jim was the first person that kind of started my career. I had to go back to him for this. And we just worked so collectively and creatively together that it just made perfect sense.
Yeah. And Waiting for Summer's my favorite from the record as well. I love
Banger.
I love the size of the hooks and the chorus and how it just brings you in, and the verses set up the pre-chorus and the chorus so well in that song. So yeah.
Do you enjoy the process of recording, putting it all together? Or do you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I love, you know, it's a lot of work, but it's the most creative time, you know. The one concept, you know, from inception of writing it and tracking it on your own home studio, and then getting in there and creating it big, and all the cool bells and whistles of production, you know what I mean? Like a little Hammond piano in the background would sound rad, and you don't necessarily hear it, but you do, you know what I mean? That kind of stuff. And little cool secret stuff that's inside the track or songs on the record, you know, is it's a lot of work, you know, long days. Your beat, you know, you're singing the same song over and over again for days, you know, you're singing for, you know, the whole time you're there, which actually is strengthening, you know what I mean? And the producers are really good at that, you know. So you're not ready to start singing, you think you're going to do guitar that day, they're like, oh, go in and start the song, you know, and they'll have to sing through all of them, right? And then by the day you're doing vocal day, quote unquote, you're kind of almost done, you know what I mean? So you're just picking up harmonies and stuff like that, and you don't even realize, like, I did all the songs, holy shit.
Those damn producers.
Do you find as an artist that's valuable, that sort of guidance, like keeping you focused? And
it's a great question, because I could never produce our records, you know, as much as I go and work with other bands and produce theirs and stuff like that, because a producer becomes your fifth member, and they're hearing things that you would never hear because you're so in the song. You know what I mean? You're so close to it that, like, if someone says, hey, that's your chorus and that's your bridge, you could never do that to yourself, though, you know, unless you're overanalyzing. And some people do it great. You know, for me, I think that I love the fifth member. I love the producer taking apart the song, and you know, for going back to One Side, Shed the Skin was nowhere near what it is. You know what I mean? And a lot of the songs on the record were nowhere near, when we first wrote them, what they are on the record. And that's the beauty of it. You know, it's like they come in and they really, you know, envelope themselves into the band and become that fifth member that, you know, puts the songs into shape in a sense. So yeah, for me, I love it. that way I can stop the over analyzing of a song and just get creative and be the artist. You're so close to it. You need, for me, you know what I mean? I would just over analyze the shit out of it until it never got done. You know what I mean?
Right.
You have to have that fifth member in the studio for sure.
I'm sure trust is important with that too. Is that why you found yourself working with Jim so many times over the years?
Yes. Trust 100% is a big part of it, because they could have some crazy ideas, or you're just told what to do. You know, I've heard horror.
And that's your baby. That's your work and your art.
You know, you hire the wrong employee or you take the wrong job. You know what I mean? It's like you hire a producer because you trust him, or you trust that he's got your best interest or the same direction. But yes, 100% is why I kept going back to Jim, and always will, because him and I just connect, and he just gets it. You know, he's like, I trust him with anything. You know, if I send something and he says it sucks, okay, I trust it. You know what I mean? Right. Or, you know, it's this or that, or let's change this around completely and use this part. And, you know, I trust that because I know that he's got our direction in mind, you know.
Right. There's no arguing and butting heads on decision making.
Not necessarily. I mean, there are conversations, you know what I mean? Because you're going to go, really? How do you, you know, it's like you want to know where they think that way, and then why he wants to know why you're so in love with it this way. And so sometimes you have to let them know passionately, you know, this is why this is like this. And then they go, oh, okay, you know, and vice versa. Well, this just doesn't make sense. And you know, me as an artist going, but that's cool. It doesn't make sense. That's the whole point. And then it's like, okay, you're right. You know, it needs to make more sense. So yeah, there's the conversations for sure. But, you know, Jim is so easygoing, and walking in there with trust, you're on the same page, you know.
We are joined here with Jason Radford of Centershift. This is the Vulgar Display of podcast. You have to check out Centershift's new album, A Different Shade. Jason, we can't let you get out of here without talking about your most recent video that you guys just released. And So. Is And So one of the most important pieces of art or work that you've been a part of?
Yeah, when we came up with the concept for the video, it was like, oh, it's either going to go really bad or really cool. I think that it came out as honest as possible. And also, just a little tidbit, the actress is the same actress as the aerialist. So it leads in from My Own World into And So. So this is the argument that basically kind of happened when she slams the door and it goes into her dream in My Own World.
Putting the piece of the puzzle here.
Right. And we didn't necessarily plan it that way. It just kind of all went. And then, you know, as we're the director's writing the treatment for the video and going this route, and I was like, yeah. And it was really a lot more graphic in the beginning, and we decided to ease up on it because we wanted it to be, instead of it being a shock value of the reality of, you know, bringing the awareness of this, which is kind of a pandemic in itself, you know, it's an epidemic of this negativity in the world, but to show, and it's not just always towards women, it's towards men, you know, it's the same thing, but it's there. So I said, if we're going to touch on this, you know, which the song has an undertone of, but if we're going to touch on the subject, let's not get so graphic and make it kind of like, you know, tell the story the way we did, you know, and the director came back and wrote that treatment for it. And so it just was awesome to shoot it all backwards, you know what I mean? And then having the actors do everything the way that they did with the big movements, because everything was going to be pulled in backwards and go, you know, from the start of the fight and the ending of the party that got them in the argument, you know. And then the male actor is from a band called Lava Diva, and a local LA band, and Baby Goats. And so he's a really good friend of ours. And he was kind of, it's funny because he was like, he's reading the treatment. He's like, yeah, I'd love to do it. He's like, am I really going to be portrayed like an a-hole? Like, well,
yeah.
Dude.
Just slightly.
Yeah. How good of a friend are you?
So, but yeah, that's kind of where that's at.
Yeah, and he's definitely the villain. I do love how it's backwards. When I first watched it through, it was just like casually viewing it, and I'm like, oh, what's going on here? I'm trying to figure it out in my own mind. I'm going to quote you here real quick. You said on the video in the song, having been exposed myself, our intent with the And So video was to capture the honesty and realness the song was written for, to give light on what, for many, is a link to one's own disease and recovery. You know, I think that's so awesome of you guys to bring light to some of the things that are just dead, that we see in the news and we maybe have personal experience with all the time. So kudos to you guys for that.
Oh, thank you.
if you are sensitive to those types of scenarios and situations, the video does come with a disclaimer at the front. But I definitely encourage, if you're able to kind of tolerate those kind of things, watch the video for And Soul. And you're going to check out the album A Different Shade from the band Centershift. What's your website? What's your official website?
It's centershiftmusic.com. Socials are Centershift. Instagram is Centershift_OG. Facebook is Centershift Band. All the rest, you can go to Bandcamp, which is Centershift Band, and then you can hit our links, and it's got everything on there as well as all the videos. Everything is up there. It goes through Linktree, so you can get everything you want through that.
Awesome. I want to give a quick shout out to Bob Bradley of Bradley Publicity. He's the one that put us in contact with you. So shout out to Bob. And we appreciate you joining us today, Jason.
Thank you guys so much. And great interview, man. I love the questions, and thank you for, all the research you did. And I appreciate you guys for all the support.